The antiseptic sting of St. Vincent's Hospital usually masked the smell of death, but tonight, Serena Hayes could taste it on her tongue. She pushed her mop bucket across the marble floor of the VIP wing, her movements slow and rhythmic, trying to keep her heart rate down. Every beat was a gamble. Her chest felt like it was wrapped in barbed wire, the congenital defect squeezing tighter with each passing week. She was 27 years old, but her heart was an old engine running on fumes, sputtering toward a finish line she couldn't afford to cross. $2 million for a valve replacement. She didn't even have $2 for the vending machine. Clear the hall, a voice boomed, shattering the quiet. Serena shrank against the wall, making herself small. Making herself invisible. It was her only survival skill. A phalanx of 20 men in black suits marched down the corridor, surrounding a man who walked like he owned the oxygen in the room. Vincent Corsetti. The Capo dei Capi. The Devil of Chicago. He looked like a statue carved from grief and violence, his $3,000 suit rumpled, his eyes bloodshot and terrifying. He wasn't looking at the cleaning lady. No one ever looked at the cleaning lady. He was staring at the double doors of the neonatal suite where his empire was crumbling. "Tell me he's breathing," Vincent growled, grabbing a trembling doctor by the lapels. "Tell me my son is breathing, or I will burn this hospital to the ground with you inside it." We are doing everything, Mr. Corsetti," the doctor stammered, his face pale. "But the premature lungs, the oxygen deprivation, he's fading." Serena gripped her mop handle until her knuckles turned white. She knew that look. She had seen it on her father's face 15 years ago, seconds before the bullets flew. She had felt it in her own soul when her twin brother, Samuel, died in her arms, his blood soaking her school uniform. The helplessness. The crushing weight of watching a life slip through your fingers while the world just kept spinning. A long, high-pitched tone sliced through the air. Beep. The sound of a flatline. Vincent roared. It wasn't a human sound. It was the sound of a wounded animal tearing itself apart. He shoved the doctor aside and kicked the doors open, his guards drawing their weapons as if they could shoot death itself. Serena abandoned her cart. She didn't decide to move. Her body moved for her. Driven by a ghost. Driven by a promise she made to a dying 12-year-old boy in a pool of blood. Never again. I will never let another one die alone. She ran toward the supply closet, her heart hammering a frantic, broken rhythm against her ribs. Pain shot down her left arm, but she bit her lip until it bled, forcing the agony into the background. She grabbed the red emergency cooler marked Organ Transport ICE, heavy and freezing against her chest. "Hey! You! Stop!" a guard shouted. Serena didn't stop. She sprinted toward the open doors of the suite. Inside, the room was chaos. Nurses were crying. Monitors were screaming. And in the center, a tiny, bluish infant lay still in the incubator. Vincent Corsetti stood over the plastic box, his gun drawn, pointing it at the head of the chief of medicine. "Bring him back." Vincent screamed, the veins in his neck bulging. "Restart his heart." "It's over, Don Vincent," the doctor sobbed, hands raised. "He's gone. We can't move." Serena shrieked. The room froze. For a split second, the most powerful Mafia Don in the city and his army of killers stared at the frail woman in a stained gray uniform clutching a cooler. "Get her out of here," a guard barked, stepping forward. "No." Serena dropped the cooler and ripped the lid off. "Therapeutic hypothermia. You have to cool him down now to save the brain function. It slows the cellular death. It buys the heart time to reset." "She's crazy," the doctor said. "Security. If you touch me, he dies." Serena yelled, her voice cracking. She looked straight at Vincent. Her blue eyes, usually downcast and submissive, burned with a ferocious, terrifying light. "They have given up. I haven't. Let me save him." Vincent stared at her. He saw the poverty in her clothes, the sickness in her pale skin, but he also saw the same desperate fire that was consuming him. He lowered his gun. "Let her work," Vincent commanded. His voice was a deadly whisper. "If anyone touches her, kill them." Serena didn't waste a breath. She scooped the medical ice into towels, her hand shaking violently, not from fear, but from the exertion that was killing her. She packed the ice around the tiny, lifeless body. Under the neck. Around the torso. She whispered to the baby, ignoring the soldiers, ignoring the doctors, ignoring the reaper standing in the corner. "Come on, little one," she murmured, tears blurring her vision. "Fight. You have to fight. Samuel couldn't stay, but you can. Come back." She placed 2 fingers on the infant's chest, performing compressions so gentle, yet so precise, mimicking the rhythm of a lullaby. 1, 2, 3. Beep. Nothing. "Come on," she begged, her own heart fluttering wildly, skipping beats, failing. Darkness encroached on the edges of her vision. "Please." Beep. The sound was faint. A whisper in the storm. Beep. Beep. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. On the monitor, the flat green line spiked. A rhythm. Weak, struggling, but there. "He's back," a nurse whispered, covering her mouth. "My God, he's back." Vincent dropped his gun. He rushed to the incubator, falling to his knees, his hands trembling as they hovered over the glass. He looked from his son to the woman who had just performed a miracle. "You." Vincent breathed, turning to face her. "Who are you?" Serena tried to answer. She wanted to say her name. She wanted to say she was nobody. But the adrenaline crash hit her like a freight train. The pain in her chest exploded, a supernova of agony that eclipsed the world. Her legs gave out. "Catch her!" Vincent roared. Serena didn't feel the hard floor. She felt strong arms wrap around her, smelling of gunpowder and expensive cologne. She looked up into the dark, dangerous eyes of the man who ruled the city, the man whose grief she had just halted. "Samuel." She whispered, the darkness swallowing her whole. "I kept the promise." Then, the world went black. The darkness did not release Serena all at once. It receded in slow, agonizing waves, leaving behind a shoreline of dull, throbbing pain in her chest. She expected the smell of bleach and old mops, the biting chill of the basement floor, or perhaps the metal bars of a police-holding cell. She had, after all, assaulted a federal building's security protocol and manhandled the son of the most dangerous man in Chicago. Instead, she smelled sandalwood, dark roast coffee, and the crisp, ozone scent of expensive linen. Serena forced her eyes open. The light was soft, filtered through heavy velvet curtains that blocked out the world. She wasn't in a jail cell. She was lying in a bed that felt like a cloud, her body connected to a constellation of monitors that beeped with a reassuringly steady rhythm. The room was cavernous, larger than the entire apartment she had grown up in. The walls were paneled in dark mahogany, and a fireplace crackled in the corner, casting long, dancing shadows across the Persian rugs. She tried to sit up, but a sharp tug in her chest pinned her down. Panic flared, hot and sudden. "Easy," a voice rumbled from the shadows. "Unless you want to tear the central line I just paid $50,000 to have inserted." Serena froze. Her eyes darted to the corner of the room. Vincent Corsetti sat in a high-backed leather wing chair, looking like a king on a dark throne. He had discarded the ruined jacket, his white dress shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and ink. He held a crystal tumbler of amber liquid in one hand and a thick manila file in the other. He wasn't looking at the file. He was looking at her. "Where am I?" Serena whispered. Her throat felt like she had swallowed broken glass. "The Corsetti estate," Vincent said, setting the glass down with a heavy clink. "My home. And currently, the most secure fortress in Illinois. There are 50 armed men patrolling the perimeter. A fly couldn't enter this room without my permission. Serena's heart monitor sped up, beep beep beep. The Mafia. She was in the belly of the beast. The stories about Vincent Corsetti were whispered in the back alleys of Chicago like ghost stories. They said he fed traitors to his dogs. They said he had dissolved his rivals in acid. I have to go, she stammered, her fingers clawing at the silk sheets. My job. I'll be fired. Martha, she needs me at the laundromat. You don't have a job anymore, Vincent said flatly. He stood up, and the sheer size of him seemed to suck the air out of the room. He walked toward the bed, his movements predatory but controlled. And you certainly aren't going back to that rat-infested basement you call a home. He stopped at the foot of the bed, tossing the manila file onto the duvet near her feet. It slid heavy against her legs. What is this? She asked, trembling. That is your life, Serena Hayes, Vincent said. Or what's left of it. Orphaned at 12. Bounced around the foster system until you ran away at 16. No degree. No assets. Just 3 dead-end jobs and a heart condition that should have killed you 2 years ago. He leaned forward, placing his hands on the bed railing, trapping her with his gaze. His eyes were dark, endless pits of guilt and intensity that she couldn't decipher. My cardiologist, the best in the world, flew him in from Zurich this morning, says your mitral valve is disintegrated. You're running on 10% capacity. You need a replacement. Titanium and tissue. The surgery alone is $2.5 million. Serena gasped. The number was so large it didn't even sound real. It sounded like a distance to the moon. I can't pay that. I know, Vincent said. You have $12 in your bank account and $40 in a shoebox under your mattress. You can't even afford the aspirin they give you at the free clinic. Then let me go, she pleaded, tears stinging her eyes. Let me go and die in peace. I did what I had to do. I saved your son. Just let that be enough. At the mention of his son, Vincent's mask cracked. The terrifying, cold veneer shattered for a split second, revealing a raw, bleeding wound underneath. He reached out, his hand hovering near her face before he pulled it back, clenching his fist. Lucas is alive, he said, his voice rough, dropping an octave. Because of you. The doctor said his brain function is intact. They said it was a miracle. You were the miracle. He walked around the side of the bed and sat on the edge. The mattress dipped under his weight. He was close now, close enough for her to smell the whiskey on his breath and see the exhaustion etched into the lines around his eyes. I don't believe in God, Serena, Vincent said quietly. I believe in debts. And I owe you a debt I can never repay. But I can try. He pointed to the machines surrounding her. I bought this equipment. I hired the nurses. And I scheduled your surgery for next week. I am paying for everything. The $2.5 million. The recovery. All of it. Serena shook her head, terrified. No. I can't take money from you. I know who you are. I know where that money comes from. Blood money. Vincent's jaw tightened. It spends the same as any other money. And it's the only thing that stands between you and a coffin. Why? She challenged, her defiance flaring up despite her weakness. Why do you care? I'm just a janitor. I'm nobody. Vincent looked away, staring at the file on the bed. His expression darkened, a shadow passing over his face that looked dangerously like shame. He knew. He knew something she didn't. Because you were the only one he responds to, Vincent lied, though the lie was wrapped in a truth. When you collapsed, Lucas started crashing again. His heart rate became erratic. The nurses couldn't calm him. I couldn't calm him. He turned back to her, his eyes burning. You touched him, and he lived. You are connected to him now. I don't know how, and I don't care why. But my son needs you. And I need my son. He stood up abruptly, restoring the distance between them. You stay here. You get strong. You let me fix your heart. And in return, you help me with Lucas until he is out of the woods. And if I refuse? Serena asked, though she already knew the answer. Vincent walked to the heavy oak door. He paused, his hand on the brass handle, looking back at her over his shoulder. The silhouette of the Devil of Chicago cut a sharp figure against the dim light of the hallway. Look at the guards outside the window, Serena, he said. Look at the gate. You are in the Corsetti estate now. Nobody leaves until I say they leave. He opened the door. Rest. Dinner will be brought up in an hour. The door clicked shut, the sound echoing like the locking of a cell. Serena sank back into the pillows, her breath hitching in her chest. She reached down and touched the manila file Vincent had left. Her fingers grazed the tab. She didn't open it. She didn't need to read her own tragedy, she had lived it. But there was something in Vincent's eyes, something haunted, that terrified her more than his guns or his money. He looked at her not just like a savior, but like a ghost he had been running from for a very long time. She turned her head to the window. Through the gap in the velvet curtains, she could see the grounds below. Spotlight swept the manicured lawns. Men with assault rifles walked in pairs, their breath misting in the cold night air. It was a golden cage. A 5-star prison. And somewhere in this massive, silent house, a baby was sleeping, a baby she had snatched back from death, binding her soul to his, and to the monster who called himself his father. The heavy oak door clicked shut, sealing the girl in the velvet-draped room, but it could not shut out the screaming silence in Vincent Corsetti's head. He walked down the corridor of the east wing, his footsteps heavy on the plush carpet. He passed 2 guards armed with AR-15s who stiffened and bowed their heads, but Vincent did not see them. He saw only the pale, ghost-like face of the woman lying in his guest bed. He stormed into his private study, a cavernous room of leather and smoke that smelled of decisions that cost lives. He went straight to the wet bar and poured a glass of 50-year-old scotch, drinking it neat, letting the burn distract him from the cold pit in his stomach. Tony, Vincent barked without turning around. Tony, his consigliere and head of security, stepped out of the shadows near the bookshelf. He was a mountain of a man, scarred and silent, holding a thick tablet. The background check is complete, boss, Tony said, his voice low. Tell me, Vincent ordered, gripping the crystal glass until his knuckles turned white. Tell me who she is. Tell me why a janitor knows how to perform a therapeutic hypothermia procedure that baffled the chief of medicine. She was pre-med, Tony read from the screen. Scholarship to Northwestern. Top of her class. She dropped out in her junior year because she couldn't afford the tuition and her health insurance lapsed. She has been teaching herself from stolen textbooks ever since. Vincent turned, leaning against the heavy mahogany desk. And the family? Parents? Tony hesitated. That hesitation was the only warning Vincent got before the world fell out from under him. Her name is Serena Hayes, boss. Daughter of Michael and Eleanor Hayes. The glass in Vincent's hand shattered. Shards of crystal and amber liquid rained onto the Persian rug. Vincent didn't flinch. He didn't feel the slice of glass against his palm. He felt a bullet tearing through his memory, traveling 15 years into the past to lodge itself in his chest right now. Michael Hayes. The name was a gravestone in Vincent's conscience. 2009, Vincent had just taken the throne after his father's assassination. He was young, angry, and eager to prove his brutality. His advisor, a snake named Benedetti, had brought him a file claiming Michael Hayes was laundering money for the Tory family. Vincent hadn't asked for proof. He had just signed the paper. Liquidate. I killed them, Vincent whispered. The words tasted like ash. It was Benedetti's lie, boss, Tony said quickly, stepping forward. We found out too late. Hayes was innocent. He was just an accountant. I signed the order, Vincent roared, slamming his bleeding hand onto the desk. I sent the team. They slaughtered the parents in the kitchen. And the boy, the twin brother. Samuel Hayes, Tony finished softly. Collateral damage. He died in the sister's arms. She was 12. Vincent closed his eyes. The image burned behind his eyelids. A 12-year-old girl covered in her family's blood, holding her dying brother, making a promise to the air. That girl was now lying in his guest room. That girl, broken and destitute because he had destroyed her support system, had just ripped his own son from the jaws of death. She had saved the bloodline of the man who murdered hers. Does she know? Vincent asked, his voice hollow. We don't think so, Tony said. The hit was clean. No faces. Just masks. She knows the Corsetti family runs the city, but she doesn't know you signed the paper. Good, Vincent said, pulling a handkerchief from his pocket and wrapping his bleeding hand. She never finds out. Burn the file. Scrub the digital footprint. If she learns who I really am to her, it will kill her. A knock at the door broke the tension. Dr. Alistair Sterling, the Swiss cardiologist Vincent had flown in on a private jet an hour ago, stepped inside. He looked nervous. Everyone looked nervous around Vincent. Mr. Corsetti, the doctor said, adjusting his rimless glasses. I have completed the echocardiogram. Speak, Vincent commanded. It is a catastrophe, Dr. Sterling said bluntly. Her mitral valve is calcified. It is barely functioning. Her heart is working 3 times as hard to pump a fraction of the blood. She is an active failure. To be honest, I did not know how she is standing, let alone running down hallways carrying medical equipment. Can you fix it? Yes, Sterling nodded. But it requires a full valve replacement with a mechanical titanium valve. It is a highly complex surgery given her weakened state. We would need to operate within 48 hours. The cost for the team, the equipment, the facility, it will be substantial. Give me a number. With the post-op care and the specialized team I need to fly in, $3 million. Vincent didn't blink. He made $3 million in a bad week. Do it. Prep the ore in the West Wing. I want her monitored 24/7. She's refusing treatment, sir, the doctor added quietly. She is asking for her clothes. She wants to leave. Vincent straightened his jacket, the cold mask of the dawn sliding back into place. The guilt was still there, a rotting thing in his gut, but he buried it under layers of necessity. He couldn't undo the past. He couldn't bring her parents back. But he could keep her heart beating, whether she wanted him to or not. She isn't leaving, Vincent said. Serena was sitting on the edge of the massive bed, clutching her thin, stained uniform against her chest like a shield, when Vincent returned. The air in the room changed instantly, becoming heavier, charged with the static of his presence. He looked different than he had an hour ago. The rage was gone, replaced by a terrifying, absolute calm. He had wrapped his hand in a white bandage that was already spotting with red. I called a taxi, Serena lied, her voice trembling. They are waiting at the gate. Please, Mr. Corsetti. I appreciate the help, but I can't stay here. I have a life. You have a death sentence, Vincent said. He walked to the window and pulled the velvet curtains shut, plunging the room into a soft, golden gloom. Dr. Sterling told me everything. You have 48 hours before your heart gives out completely. If you walk out that door, you won't make it to the bus stop. That is my choice, Serena snapped, standing up. Her legs wobbled, but she grabbed the bedpost to steady herself. I would rather die on my own terms than be a guest of the Mafia. Vincent turned to her. His eyes were dark voids, unreadable and intense. And what about the boy? Serena froze. What? Lucas, Vincent said, stepping closer. He invaded her personal space, smelling of scotch and power. He won't sleep. He won't eat. The nurses can't settle him. He is crying himself into distress. His oxygen levels are dropping again. It was a lie. A manipulation. But Vincent delivered it with the conviction of a man who manipulated fates for a living. He saw the crack in her armor instantly. Her eyes softened. Her hand went to her chest, not in pain, but in empathy. "He needs you," Vincent pressed, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. "You brought him back. You created a bond. If you leave, and he dies from stress, that is on you." "That's not fair," Serena whispered, tears spilling over. "You can't put that on me." "Life isn't fair, Serena," Vincent said. "I would know. I have the money to save you. I have the best surgeons in the world on standby. I am offering you a new heart. A new life. All you have to do is stay until Lucas is strong enough." "Why?" she asked, searching his face. "Why spend $3 million on a stranger?" Vincent looked at her, and for a second she thought she saw agony in his eyes. He reached out, his large hand hovering near her cheek, almost touching the scar on her chin from her time on the streets. "Because I killed your father," he thought. "Because I made you an orphan. Because I pay my debts," Vincent said aloud, his voice hard. "And you are the most expensive debt I have ever incurred." He walked to the door, punching a code into the security panel. The lock engaged with a heavy, metallic thud. "The surgery is in 2 days," he said, not looking back. "Until then, this room is your world. If you need anything, ask. But do not try to leave. The guards have orders to carry you back to bed if you take one step off the porch." "This is a prison," Serena gasped, realizing the trap had snapped shut. "No," Vincent said, pausing in the doorway. He looked back at her, the woman who held his son's life in her hands, and whose life he held in his. "It's a sanctuary. You just don't know it yet." He stepped out, and the door locked. Serena was left alone in the golden cage, surrounded by luxury that felt like blood money, listening to the rhythm of her failing heart, unaware that the man who had just locked her in was the ghost she had been running from for 15 years. 3 weeks inside the Corsetti estate had blurred the lines between prison and sanctuary. For Serena, the days were measured not by hours, but by the rhythm of 2 hearts. Her own, ticking like a time bomb with a newly scheduled surgery date, and the tiny, fluttering heart of Lucas Corsetti. The nursery was a masterpiece of sterile wealth. It had climate control, bulletproof glass windows, and a crib that cost more than Serena's entire lifetime earnings. But it was cold. It lacked the one thing money couldn't buy, which was warmth. That was why Serena sat in the rocking chair at 3 a.m., holding the heir to the Chicago Mafia against her fragile chest. Lucas had been fussy all night. The nurses, efficient women in crisp uniforms who terrified Serena, had tried everything. Formula. Rocking machines. White noise. Nothing worked. But the moment Vincent allowed Serena into the room, the baby settled. "Shoo, Piccolo," Serena whispered, her finger tracing the curve of his tiny ear. He looked so much like Samuel. The same dark fuzz of hair. The same inquisitive grit. "You have to sleep. You have to grow strong." She began to hum, the melody rising from a place deep in her memory. It was a song her mother, Eleanor, used to sing while folding laundry in their cramped living room, before the bullets and the blood. "Ninna nana, ninna oh, questo bimbo a chi lo do." The Italian lullaby drifted through the high-tech nursery, softening the hard edges of the room. Serena closed her eyes, letting the vibration of her own voice soothe the ache in her chest. She didn't hear the door open. She didn't feel the shift in air pressure that signaled the arrival of the devil. Vincent stood in the doorway, frozen. He had just come from the basement, where he had spent the last 2 hours interrogating a snitch who had sold shipping routes to the Torrey family. His knuckles were raw. His shirt smelled of copper and sweat. He felt like a monster wrapped in silk. And then he heard it. The song. It hit him like a physical blow to the gut. He remembered that song. He had heard it on the surveillance tapes 15 years ago. The bugs planted in the Hayes household had picked up everything. The conversations about bills. The arguments over homework. and the mother singing that exact lullaby to her twins. Vincent gripped the doorframe, his breath hitching. He was watching the daughter of the woman he murdered sing the song of the dead to his own son. The guilt was a living thing, clawing at his throat, threatening to choke him. Serena opened her eyes and saw him. She didn't flinch. Over the last 3 weeks, her fear of him had mutated into something complex. A wary curiosity. He was a killer, she knew that. But he was also the man who paced the hallway when Lucas coughed. He wouldn't sleep, Serena said softly, not stopping the rocking motion. I heard, Vincent rasped. He didn't move closer. He felt too dirty to be near them. You have a nice voice. My mother taught me, Serena said. Vincent looked away, staring at the floor. Get some rest, Serena. The doctors are prepping you for the valve replacement in 2 days. You need your strength. I am fine, she lied. Her lips were pale blue, a sign her heart was struggling to oxygenate her blood. You are a terrible liar, Vincent muttered. Go to bed. I will sit with him. He cries when you hold him, Serena said simply. He knows you're tense. Babies can feel it. You carry the world on your shoulders, Mr. Corsetti. Lucas needs softness. Vincent looked at her, really looked at her. She was dying. She was a prisoner in his house. She should hate him. And yet, she was protecting his son with a ferocity that humbled him. Good night, Serena, he whispered, backing out of the room before he did something stupid, like fall to his knees and confess his sins. The next morning brought a surreal shift in the atmosphere. The heavy, suffocating dread of the nursery was replaced by the smell of burning bread. Serena walked down the grand staircase, gripping the banister for support. Her chest felt heavy today, like it was filled with lead water. She followed the smoke into the kitchen, a space large enough to service a hotel. She stopped in the doorway, blinking in confusion. The private chefs were gone. In their place stood Vincent Corsetti, wearing black suit pants and a white undershirt, holding a spatula like it was a weapon. Smoke billowed from the 4-slice toaster. A pan of eggs on the stove was suspiciously brown. Mr. Corsetti? Serena asked. Vincent jumped, spinning around. He looked more flustered than he had when holding a gun to the doctor's head. The staff is unavailable, Vincent growled, turning back to scrape the burnt eggs into the trash. I gave them the morning off. Security reasons. You gave them the morning off so you could burn the kitchen down? Serena asked, a small smile tugging at her lips. It was the first time she had smiled in weeks. I am making breakfast, Vincent said defensively. How hard can it be? It is eggs. Heat. Pan. Done. You have the heat on high, Serena said, walking over. She took the spatula from his hand. His skin was hot, his grip tight. For a second, their fingers brushed, and a jolt of electricity went through her that had nothing to do with her pacemaker. You have to cook them low and slow. Like patience. Do you have patience, Vincent? It was the first time she had used his first name. Vincent looked down at her. She was so small next to him. He could snap her in half with one hand, yet she made him feel powerless. I have zero patience, he admitted. I am used to getting what I want when I want it. Not with eggs, Serena said, cracking 2 fresh ones into a bowl. And not with children. She started whisking, her movements graceful despite her frailty. Vincent watched her, mesmerized. He had spent the last decade surrounded by women who wanted his money, his power, or his protection. He had never been around a woman who just wanted to fix his breakfast. Why are you doing this? He asked quietly. Cooking. Caring for Lucas. You could just sit in your room and hate me. I do hate what you do, Serena said, pouring the eggs into the pan. I hate the guns. I hate the guards. But Lucas is innocent. And you. She paused, looking up at him. You are trying. A monster doesn't try to make scrambled eggs for a sick woman. Vincent felt a crack in his chest. If only you knew, he thought. I am not trying to be good. I am trying to buy my way out of hell. Sit, he ordered, his voice rough. I will make the toast. I can handle the toast. Scrape the black parts off, Serena advised, sitting at the island. For 20 minutes, the godfather of Chicago and the dying janitor ate breakfast in a silence that wasn't hostile. It was fragile. A bubble of normalcy suspended in a sea of violence. Then the bubble popped. The kitchen door swung open, and Tony burst in. He was wearing full tactical gear, a Kevlar vest strapped over his chest, an assault rifle in his hands. He didn't look at the eggs. He looked at Vincent with eyes full of panic. Boss, Tony said, breathless. We have a problem. Vincent stood up instantly, the domestic mask vanishing. The killer returned. Not here, Tony. It's too late for discretion, Tony said, glancing at Serena. The word is out. Dante Torre knows about the surgery. He knows she is here. Serena dropped her fork. It clattered loudly against the granite. What does that mean? She whispered. Vincent walked around the island, placing himself between Serena and the door, a human shield. What is the number, Tony? 20 million, Tony said grimly. Dante just put a $20 million open contract on your head. And $5 million for the girl. Why me? Serena stood up, her hands shaking. I'm nobody. You are the only thing keeping his heir alive, Tony said bluntly. Dante wants to end the Corsetti line. He knows if he kills you, the boss crumbles, and the baby has no caregiver. Vincent slammed his hand onto the counter. Double the perimeter. Call the squads from the south side. I want 80 men on the lawn within the hour. If a squirrel crosses the fence, shoot it. He turned to Serena. The softness from breakfast was gone. His eyes were hard, terrifying diamonds. Go to your room, he commanded. Lock the door. Stay away from the windows. Vincent. Go, he roared, the sound echoing off the high ceilings. Do you think this is a game? They are coming for you, Serena. And I will burn this entire city to ash before I let them touch you. Serena fled. She ran up the stairs, her heart pounding a frantic, broken rhythm. She didn't know what terrified her more, the $20 million price tag on her head, or the fact that for a brief moment in the kitchen, she had felt safer with the monster than she had ever felt in the real world. Down in the kitchen, Vincent strapped on a shoulder holster, checking the magazine of his .45. The eggs were cold. The toast was burnt. And the war had just arrived at his front door. The estate was a fortress under siege, but the silence inside was louder than the 80 men patrolling the perimeter. Vincent had been locked in the underground war room for 6 hours, coordinating the counterstrike against the Torre family. The house felt empty, suspended in a suffocating tension that made the air feel thin. Serena walked down the second-floor hallway, her hand trailing along the silk wallpaper. Her chest ached, a dull, constant reminder of the titanium valve now clicking softly inside her, keeping time like a metronome. She was supposed to be resting, but the walls of her room felt like they were closing in. She stopped in front of the double mahogany doors of Vincent's private study. Usually, this room was locked. Guarded. Forbidden. But today, in the chaos of the security lockdown, the door was cracked open a fraction of an inch. A sliver of amber light spilled onto the carpet. Serena pushed the door. It swung open on silent hinges. The room smelled of leather, expensive tobacco, and Vincent. It was a masculine space, dominated by a massive oak desk that looked like it had been carved from the hull of a ship. Serena stepped inside, intending only to borrow a book from the floor-to-ceiling shelves to distract herself from the looming threat outside. That was when she saw it. On the center of the desk, sitting atop a stack of maps and tactical layouts, was a single, weathered file folder. It wasn't digital. It was old school. Thick, yellowed cardstock stamped with red ink, closed archive, 2009. Curiosity, cold and sharp, pricked at her neck. 2009 was the year her life ended. The year the world went dark. Serena walked around the desk. Her fingers trembled as she reached out. She flipped the cover open. The first thing she saw was a photograph. It was grainy, taken from a distance with a telephoto lens, but the faces were unmistakable. A man in a windbreaker laughing as he pushed a swing. A woman holding a tray of lemonade. Two 12-year-old children chasing a golden retriever. Her father. Her mother. Samuel. And her. Serena's breath hitched, turning into a strangled gasp. No. She turned the page. It wasn't a family album. It was a surveillance log. Subject, Michael Hayes. Occupation, accountant. Suspected affiliation, Tory money laundering. Surveillance confirmed daily routine. She turned another page. A document titled Liquidation Order. The date was December 17, 2009. The night of the snowstorm. The night the man in masks kicked down the door. Authorization level, Capo dei Capi. Method, no witnesses. Signature. Serena stared at the bottom of the page. The signature was bold, jagged, aggressive. Ink pressed hard into the paper. Vincent Corsetti. The room tilted. The floor seemed to dissolve into liquid. A high-pitched ringing filled her ears, drowning out the hum of the air conditioning. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be. The man who had sat by her bedside. The man who had clumsily burnt her toast. The man who had spent $3 million to fix her heart. He wasn't her savior. He was the architect of her hell. He had signed the paper. He had sent the men. He had killed her mother. He had killed her father. And because of him, Samuel had bled out on the floorboards, cold and alone. Serena. The voice came from the doorway. Low. Rough. Shattered. Serena spun around. Vincent stood there, still wearing his shoulder holster, his face gray with exhaustion. He looked at her, then at the open file on the desk. He didn't move. He didn't reach for his gun. He didn't try to lie. He just stood there and let the truth hit him. You, Serena whispered. The word came out like a curse. Serena, listen to me, Vincent said, taking a step forward, his hands raised in surrender. I didn't know. Not then. I was 21. I was lied to. Benedetti told me your father was a rat. I signed the order without looking. You killed them. Serena screamed. The sound tore from her throat, raw and animalistic. She grabbed a heavy crystal paperweight from the desk and hurled it at him. It struck Vincent in the shoulder, bouncing off with a dull thud. He didn't flinch. I killed them, she shrieked again, closing the distance between them. She hammered her fists against his chest, striking the Kevlar best, striking his face, striking the monsters she had almost started to trust. You killed Samuel. He was 12. He was just a boy. I know, Vincent said. He caught her wrists, not to hurt her, but to stop her from hurting herself. I know. And I have lived in hell every day since I found out. Let me go. Serena fought him, kicking, biting, sobbing. Don't touch me. You have their blood on your hands. Get off me. Kill me, Vincent whispered, pulling her closer until her forehead rested against his chest. If it takes the pain away, Serena, take my gun and kill me. I deserve it. I deserve everything you want to do to me. Serena collapsed. The fight drained out of her, replaced by a grief so heavy it crushed her lungs. She slid down to the floor, her new heart pounding a frantic, irregular rhythm against her ribs. Vincent went down with her, kneeling on the expensive carpet, holding her as she wailed. Why, she sobbed into his shirt. Why did you save me? Why didn't you just let me die? Because I couldn't save them, Vincent choked out. And I thought, maybe if I saved you. God would forgive me. I will never forgive you, Serena hissed, pushing him away. She scrambled backward, wiping the tears from her face with trembling hands. Never. You hear me? You are a monster. And I am leaving. I would rather die in the gutter than spend one more second in this house. She stood up, swaying, and ran for the door. Serena, wait. Vincent shouted, scrambling to his feet. It's not safe. Dante's men are. Beep. 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 A siren cut through the house. It wasn't the security alarm. It wasn't the perimeter breach warning. It was the medical alarm from the nursery. The sound was distinct, a rapid, high-frequency pulse that signaled a critical life event. Serena froze in the hallway. Her hatred for Vincent was a towering inferno, but the sound of that alarm was a bucket of ice water. Lucas. She didn't look at Vincent. She turned and sprinted toward the nursery, her survival instinct for the child overriding her hatred for the father. She burst into the room. 2 nurses were hovering over the crib, their faces masks of panic. What is it? Serena demanded, pushing past them. She looked into the crib and gasped. Lucas was no longer the pink, recovering baby she had rocked to sleep last night. He was gray. Ashen. His tiny lips were a terrifying shade of blue. And all over his skin, tiny red spots, petechiae, were blooming like a rash of blood. He's not breathing properly, one nurse cried. His oxygen sat is dropping. 60%. 50. Get the bag. Serena ordered, her medical training kicking in. Bag him. Now. Vincent appeared in the doorway, breathless. What is happening? What is wrong with my son? Dr. Sterling rushed in behind him, carrying a portable diagnostic kit. He pushed everyone aside, placing a stethoscope on Lucas's chest. He listened for 10 seconds, his expression turning from serious to grave. He checked the baby's gums. They were white. It is not his heart, Sterling announced, his voice shaking. It is his blood. Look at the bruising. Look at the pallor. What does that mean? Vincent grabbed the doctor's arm. Speak plain English. Severe aplastic anemia, Sterling said, looking up at the dawn with fear in his eyes. His bone marrow has stopped producing cells. Red blood cells. White blood cells. Platelets. He is crushing, Mr. Corsetti. Fix it, Vincent snarled. Give him medicine. Give him blood. I don't care what it costs. Transfusions will only buy hours, Sterling said, shaking his head. His marrow is empty. It's a total failure. If he doesn't get a stem cell transplant, a bone marrow donation. The doctor looked at the tiny, struggling infant, then at the clock on the wall. He won't last 24 hours, Sterling whispered. The silence that followed was heavier than the one in the study. It was the silence of a tomb. Serena stood by the crib, her hand hovering over Lucas's chest. She looked at the baby who had become her world. Then she looked at Vincent, the man who had murdered her family. Fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. It had brought them all together for one final, brutal act. Test me, Vincent said instantly, rolling up his sleeve. Take my marrow. Take all of it. We will test everyone, Sterling said, pulling out a syringe. But the odds of a match, they are 1 in a million. Serena stared at Lucas. The innocent boy caught in a war of blood and sins. She hated his father. She wanted to see Vincent burn. But as she looked at the tiny, grasping hand of the baby, she knew she was trapped. She couldn't leave. Not yet. The dawn over Lake Michigan was the color of a fresh bruise, purple and swollen with an incoming storm. Inside the Corsetti estate, the atmosphere was even darker. Vincent had turned Chicago inside out. He had offered $50 million cash to anyone who was a match for Lucas. He had forced his 5,000 soldiers to get swabbed at gunpoint. He had flown in samples from databases in Berlin, Tokyo, and London. Nothing. 0 matches. Vincent stood in the library, the phone crushed against his ear, his voice a low, terrifying growl. I don't care about FDA regulations. I don't care about protocols. Find me a donor or I will find you and peel the skin from your bones. He slammed the phone down, the plastic casing cracking under his grip. He looked at Tony, who was standing by the window, staring at the floor. Tony didn't have to speak. The silence said enough. They were out of time. Lucas had 6 hours, maybe 8, before his organs began to shut down from the systemic failure. The door opened. Serena walked in. She looked like a ghost, her skin translucent, the dark circles under her eyes stark against her pallor. She was holding a piece of paper in her trembling hand. Dr. Sterling followed her, looking like a man marching to his own execution. Get out, Vincent snapped, turning his back. I don't want you here, Serena. I told you to pack. Go live your life while you still have one. I can't go, Serena said. Her voice was devoid of emotion. It wasn't the fiery hatred from yesterday. It was something colder. Something dead. Why? Vincent spun around. Do you want to watch him die? Is that it? Is this your revenge? Watching my son suffocate to pay for what I did to your brother? No, Serena whispered. She stepped forward and placed the paper on the desk, right on top of the file that contained her parents' death warrant. I'm not leaving because I am the match. Vincent froze. The air in the room seemed to solidify. He looked at the paper. It was a genetic compatibility report. The bars were all green. 100%. What is this? Vincent breathed. I asked Dr. Sterling to test me while you were streaming at your captains, Serena said. I had a feeling. Maybe it's fate. Maybe it's God laughing at us. But my marrow is compatible with Lucas. I can save him. Vincent stared at her, his mind reeling. The daughter of the man he murdered was the only person on Earth who could save his son. It was a cosmic joke. A twist of the knife so cruel it stole his breath. Prep the surgery, Vincent ordered Sterling, hope surging through his veins like a drug. Do it now. Whatever she needs. Wait, Dr. Sterling said, stepping between them. He didn't look at Vincent. He looked at Serena with deep sorrow. Mr. Corsetti, you need to hear the rest. What rest? Vincent demanded. Serena's heart, Sterling said, tapping his clipboard. Shutterstock. Her mitral valve is barely holding on. She is scheduled for open heart surgery in 48 hours because she is currently unstable. If we put her under general anesthesia now, if we subject her body to the trauma of a marrow extraction. The doctor paused, removing his glasses. She won't survive the procedure, Sterling said. The mortality rate for a patient in her condition is 60%. Maybe 70%. Her heart will simply stop on the table. The room went silent. Vincent looked at Serena. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking out the window, at the gray, churning lake. She knew. She had known before she walked in. No, Vincent said. Vincent, Serena started, turning to him. I said no. Vincent roared, sweeping the expensive lamp and crystal decanters off his desk. They shattered against the wall, a violent explosion of glass. I will not do it. I will not trade your life for his. I am a killer, Serena. I am a monster. But I am not that. You don't get to decide, Serena said, her voice rising. This is my body. My life. It's suicide. Vincent grabbed her shoulders, shaking her. Do you hear me? You will die. And for what? For the son of the man who killed your family? Why would you do that? Because he is innocent. Serena screamed back, pushing him away. Because he is a baby. He didn't sign the order. He didn't pull the trigger. He's just a little boy who is cold and alone and dying." She took a breath, her chest heaving, the pain visible in her grimace. 15 years ago, she whispered, tears finally spilling over. I held Samuel in my arms. I felt him get cold. I felt his heart stop beating. I begged God to take me instead. I promised him. I would never let it happen again if I had the power to stop it. She looked straight into Vincent's eyes. The hatred was still there, burning deep, but it was overshadowed by a sacrificial love that Vincent couldn't comprehend. I am not doing this for you, Vincent, she spat the words. I hate you. I will hate you until my last breath. I am doing this because I refuse to be like you. I refuse to let a child die when I can save him. Serena. Vincent's voice broke. He fell to his knees. The great Don of Chicago, the man who made mayors tremble, knelt on the carpet in front of the woman he had orphaned. Please. Don't make me add your name to the list of people I killed. I can't carry it. I can't. Then carry the guilt, Serena said cold and hard. But you will carry a living son. She turned to Dr. Sterling. Prep the oar. I am signing the waiver. Serena, please, Vincent begged, grabbing her hand. His face was wet with tears. There has to be another way. I will give you anything. Half my empire. I will turn myself in. I will rot in prison. There is no other way, Serena said, pulling her hand from his grip. We are out of time. She walked to the door, pausing only for a second. If I die, she said, not looking back. Bury me next to Samuel. And tell Lucas, tell him I tried. She walked out. Vincent remained on his knees, surrounded by the wreckage of his office and the wreckage of his soul. He had offered $50 million to save his son. But the price wasn't money. The price was the life of the only woman who had ever made him want to be a better man. The sterile silence of St. Vincent's Hospital was a deception. Behind the white walls and the hum of ventilation systems, violence was waiting to exhale. Serena lay on the gurney in pre-op room 4, staring at the ceiling tiles. The sedative they had given her to calm her heart rate made her limbs feel like they were floating in honey. In 2 hours, they would crack her chest open to fix her valve, and then, if she was still alive, they would drill into her hip bone to harvest the marrow for Lucas. It was a medical marathon that Dr. Sterling had called physiological suicide. The door hissed open. 2 orderlies in blue scrubs walked in, masks covering their faces. They moved with a synchronized, predatory fluidity that didn't belong in a hospital. Time for transport, Miss Hayes, the taller one said. His voice was muffled, but the Italian accent was thick, sharp as a switchblade. Dr. Sterling said, another hour, Serena mumbled, her tongue heavy. Change of plans. The orderly stepped aside, revealing the bodies of the 2 Corsetti guards stationed outside the door. They had been silenced with knives, quick, clean, professional. Serena tried to scream, but the second man clamped a chemically soaked rag over her nose and mouth. The smell of chloroform assaulted her senses, a sweet, sickly darkness that dragged her down instantly. The last thing she felt was the cold metal of the gurney railing as they wheeled her out, not toward the operating theater, but toward the service elevators. Vincent was 3 floors up in the NICU, watching Lucas sleep, when the radio on his hip crackled. Boss. We missed a check-in on the 4th floor. Vincent didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. He drew his weapon and sprinted for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. When he burst into pre-op room 4 and saw the empty bed, the slashed throats of his men, and the discarded 4-line dripping onto the floor, the world turned red. He touched the pool of blood near the door. It was still warm. Tony! Vincent roared into his comms, a sound so primal it terrified the nurses in the hallway. Lock down the exits. Seal the garage. They have her. Who, boss? Tori, Vincent spat the name like poison. He didn't come for me. He came for the donor. Serena woke up to the smell of rust and rot. It was the copper tang of old blood mixed with the chemical bite of ammonia. She was seated in a metal chair, her wrists zip-tied behind her back so tightly her fingers were numb. She blinked against the harsh glare of a swinging halogen bulb. She wasn't in a hospital anymore. The room was cavernous, filled with meat hooks hanging from ceiling chains. The floor was concrete, stained dark with fluids that had dried years ago. "Welcome to the slaughterhouse, Miss Hayes." A man stepped into the light. Dante Torrey. He was younger than Vincent, with a face that was too handsome, marred only by eyes that held absolutely no soul. He wore a pristine white suit that looked grotesque against the grime of the abandoned meatpacking plant. Where am I?" Serena croaked. Her chest felt tight. Her heart was fluttering, a dangerous, erratic butterfly trapped in her ribcage. The end of the line, Dante smiled, revealing teeth that looked too white. He walked around her, trailing a finger along her shoulder. "You see, Vincent thinks he has one. He found a match. He bought the doctor's. He thinks he can save his heir and keep his empire." Dante stopped in front of her, leaning down so their noses almost touched. "But he forgot one thing. The donor needs to be alive to give the marrow." "He will kill you," Serena whispered. "He will burn this place down." "He might," Dante shrugged. "But not before I break you." He lit a cigar, the flame illuminating the cruelty in his eyes. He took a long drag, the tip glowing a menacing cherry red. "The doctors say your heart is weak, Serena. They say stress could kill you. Let's test that theory." He pressed the burning cigar into her forearm. Serena screamed. The pain was searing, white-hot and immediate. It bypassed her brain and went straight to her heart, triggering a spasm that made her gasp for air. "Please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "The baby, he's innocent." "There are no innocents in this life," Dante said, and he pressed the cigar down again. Vincent Corsetti did not negotiate. He did not call the police. He did not send a scout. He assembled the death squad. 12 men. The ghost of the Chicago underworld. Men who had no names, no families, and no mercy. They stood in the rain outside the derelict meatpacking plant on the south side, armed with suppressed assault rifles and combat knives. "Rules of engagement," Vincent said, checking the slide on his twin-point .45s. He wasn't wearing body armor. He didn't want the weight slowing him down. Anything moving inside that building dies. Except the girl. "Copy that, Don Vincent," the squad leader grunted. "Breach." They blew the heavy steel doors with C4 charges. The explosion shattered the night, and before the smoke cleared, Vincent was inside. He moved like a demon born of smoke and fire. A Tory guard stepped out from behind a crate. Vincent put 2 rounds in his chest and 1 in his head before the man could raise his weapon. Pop, pop, pop. The silencers turned the massacre into a series of quiet, deadly whispers. Vincent moved through the kill house, stepping over bodies. His rage was a cold, focused laser. He counted the kills. 4. 5. 6. He didn't feel fear. He didn't feel adrenaline. He felt only the crushing weight of the promise he had made to a dead boy 15 years ago. "I will not let her die." He reached the heavy plastic curtains of the main processing floor. He could hear Serena screaming. It was a weak, ragged sound, the sound of a heart giving out. Vincent tore through the curtain. The scene burned itself into his retinas. Serena, slumped in the chair, her head hanging low, blood dripping from her arm. Dante standing over her, holding a serrated combat knife. "One step closer, Vincent, and I open her throat." Dante yelled, pressing the blade against Serena's jugular. A thin line of red appeared on her pale skin. Vincent stopped. He was 10 feet away. His guns were raised, locked on Dante's head, but the angle was bad. Dante was using her as a shield. "Let her go, Dante," Vincent said. His voice was terrifyingly calm. "This is between us. Let her walk, and I will let you die quick. Die quick? Dante laughed, a matic, high-pitched sound. I'm going to watch your son rot, Vincent. I'm going to watch your empire crumble because you couldn't save a janitor. Serena lifted her head. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. She looked at Vincent, and in that moment, he saw the 12-year-old girl at the dinner table. Do it, her eyes seemed to say. Don't worry about me. Vincent holstered his guns. Dante blinked, confused. What are you doing? You want to be a man, Dante? Vincent unbuttoned his jacket, tossing it aside. You want to kill the king? Come and do it. Hands only. No weapons. Dante looked at the gun on the floor, then at Vincent. His ego was his weakness. He shoved Serena's chair over, sending her crashing to the concrete, and lunged at Vincent with the knife. Vincent didn't dodge. He stepped into the blade. He caught Dante's wrist midair, the tip of the knife slicing into Vincent's forearm. He didn't even grunt. He twisted Dante's arm with a sickening crack, shattering the radius bone. Dante screamed, dropping the knife. Vincent didn't stop. He drove his knee into Dante's gut, doubling him over, then grabbed him by the hair and slammed his face into the concrete floor. Once. Twice. 3 times. Dante lay on his back, blood bubbling from his mouth, his eyes wide with shock. You're a monster, Dante gurgled. Yes, Vincent whispered, leaning down. I am. He wrapped his hands around Dante's neck. He didn't squeeze. He didn't choke him out. He jerked his hands violently to the left. Snap. Dante Torre went limp. The rival Don was dead. Vincent scrambled over to Serena. She was lying on her side, still tied to the chair. Her skin was gray. Her lips were blue. Serena. He cut the zip ties with Dante's dropped knife. He pulled her into his arms. She was ice cold. Vincent. She whispered. Her voice was a thread of smoke. Did I save him? Not yet, Vincent choked out, lifting her up. She weighed nothing. She felt like a bird with hollow bones. You have to stay with me, Serena. We have a surgery to get to. He ran. He sprinted out of the plant, past the 12 bodies of his enemies, carrying the only thing that mattered. Clear the SUV. Vincent roared at his men as he burst into the rainy night. Drive. Go. Go. He threw himself into the back seat with Serena, cradling her head in his lap. Tony jumped into the driver's seat, flooring the gas. The armored Escalade peeled out, tire screaming. Step on it. Vincent yelled. She's crashing. Serena's eyes rolled back in her head. Her chest stopped moving. Vincent placed 2 fingers on her neck. Nothing. No pulse. No. Vincent screamed. No, no, no. He began chest compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. He pressed down on her fragile ribs, terrified he would break her, terrified he wouldn't. Come on, Serena, he begged, tears streaming down his face, mixing with the blood from his arm. You don't get to quit. You hate me, remember? You promised to hate me forever. So stay alive and hate me. Pump. 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 Don't let me off the hook, he shouted, his voice breaking. Don't you dare die and leave me with this debt. Live. Just live. The SUV swerved through traffic, hitting 100 miles an hour. Almost there, boss. Tony yelled from the front. Vincent bent down, pressing his lips to her ear. Serena, please, he whispered, a broken prayer to a universe that hadn't listened in 15 years. I will give you anything. I will give you the world. Just take a breath. Her body jerked. A gasp, horrible and ragged, tore from her throat. That's it, Vincent sobbed, keeping his hands on her chest, feeling the weak, thready flutter of a heart that refused to give up. That's it. Keep fighting. The lights of St. Vincent's Hospital appeared in the distance, a beacon in the rain. They were 3 minutes away. 3 minutes between life and death. 3 minutes to decide if the circle of blood would finally be broken. The armored SUV shattered the glass doors of the emergency bay, skidding to a halt across the polished tile. Vincent didn't wait for the vehicle to stop completely. He kicked the door open and leaped out, cradling Serena's limp body against his chest like she was made of antique glass. "Help!" Vincent roared, his voice cracking with a desperation that terrified the triage nurses. "Code Blue. Get Sterling down here now." A team of 20 surgeons and specialists, already prepped and waiting on Vincent's orders, swarmed them. They transferred Serena onto a gurney. Her skin was the color of ash. Her chest was still. A nurse jumped on top of the moving bed, continuing the compressions Vincent had started. "No pulse," the nurse shouted. "Push 1 milligram of AP. Get the paddles." They wheeled her through the double doors. Vincent tried to follow, but Tony grabbed him, holding him back with all his strength. "Boss, you can't," Tony said, his own eyes wet. "You have to let them work." Vincent stood there, covered in the blood of his enemies and the woman he loved, watching the door swing shut. For the next 12 hours, the hallway of St. Vincent's Hospital became his purgatory. He didn't sit. He didn't eat. He paced the length of the corridor, bargaining with a god he had ignored for 30 years. "Take everything," he prayed silently. "Take the money. Take the power. Take the empire. Just let her wake up." Inside Operating Theater 1, it was a war zone. Dr. Sterling led a team of the world's best specialists. They cracked Serena's chest open, exposing the heart that was barely fluttering. They put her on bypass. They sawed through the sternum. They replaced the calcified mitral valve with a state-of-the-art titanium implant. And then, while her chest was still open, another team moved in to harvest the bone marrow from her hip. "She's crashing," the anesthesiologist announced, the monitor screaming a flatline tone. "Pressure is bottoming out. Shock her." Sterling yelled. "Clear." Thump. Nothing. Again. "Clear." Thump. Vincent heard the sounds from the hallway. He slid down the wall, burying his face in his hands. He was the most powerful man in Chicago. He could order the death of a rival Don with a phone call. But here, in this wide hallway, he was nothing. Just a man waiting for judgment. 1 week later. The pain was the first thing Serena felt. It was a dull, heavy ache in her chest, as if an elephant were sitting on her ribs. She blinked her eyes open, expecting the darkness of the meatpacking plant. Instead, she saw sunlight. Bright, blinding sunlight streaming through a window. "She's awake," a soft voice whispered. Serena turned her head. A nurse was adjusting a drip. And in a corner, sitting in a plastic chair that looked too small for him, was Vincent. He looked 10 years older. His beard had grown in, dark and patchy. His eyes were hollowed out by sleeplessness. He wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, stripped of the suits and the armor. "Lucas?" Serena rasped. Her throat was dry. Vincent stood up, moving slowly, as if he were afraid to startle her. "He is alive. The transplant, it worked. His counts are up. He is pink. He is eating. He is going to live, Serena." Serena closed her eyes, a tear leaking out. "Good. That is, good. And you," Vincent said, his voice trembling. "You died twice on the table. But you came back. You stubborn, beautiful, impossible woman. You came back." Serena looked at him. She remembered everything. The file. The signature. The kidnapping. The way he had screamed at her to live. The hatred was still there, sitting in her gut, but it was complicated now. It was tangled up with gratitude and confusion. "I saved your son," Serena said coldly. The debt is paid. The debt will never be paid, Vincent said. I want to leave, she said. As soon as I can walk. I want to leave. Vincent didn't argue. He didn't threaten. He just nodded, looking defeated. Okay. 3 days later, Serena was discharged. She refused the wheelchair. She refused the private car Vincent offered. She wore a tracksuit one of the nurses had bought for her, carrying her worn medical notebook in a plastic bag. She walked out of the main entrance of St. Vincent's Hospital into the crisp spring air. She expected to walk to the bus stop and disappear back into the anonymity of the city. But the courtyard was not empty. 500 men in black suits stood in silent formation. The entire Corsetti crime family. The soldiers. The capos. The associates. They lined the driveway, creating a path. At the end of the path stood Vincent. Serena stopped, clutching her bag. Was this it? Was he going to kill her now that he had what he wanted? Vincent walked toward her. He stopped 5 feet away. The press was there, cameras flashing from the sidewalk. The hospital staff was watching from the windows. Vincent Corsetti, the capo dei capi, the man who never bowed to anyone, looked her in the eye. I took your family, he said, his voice carrying in the silence. I took your childhood. I took your peace. And in return, you gave me my son. He didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't reach for her. He dropped to his knees. A collective gasp went through the crowd. The godfather of Chicago was kneeling on the concrete in front of a former janitor. He bowed his head, exposing his neck, an act of ultimate submission. I cannot bring them back, Vincent said, his voice cracking. But I can spend the rest of my life trying to fill the hole I made. I surrender, Serena. My life is yours. My empire is yours. Do with me what you want. Serena stared at him. She saw the man who had burned her toast. The man who had wept over her lifeless body. She saw the monster who killed her parents, and the father who loved his son. She walked forward. She stopped in front of him. She reached out and touched his shoulder. Get up, Vincent, she whispered. We have a lot of work to do. 3 years later. The sun filtered through the leaves of the old oak tree at Oak Hill Cemetery. It was a beautiful day, the kind that made you forget that winter ever existed. Serena stood before 3 headstones. Michael Hayes. Eleanor Hayes. Samuel Hayes. She placed a bouquet of white lilies on the grass. She wasn't wearing a janitor's uniform anymore. She wore a white coat with a stethoscope around her neck. Dr. Serena Hayes Corsetti, head of pediatrics. I kept the promise, Samuel, she whispered to the wind. I'm saving them. Every day. Mama. A little boy with dark curls and a mischievous smile ran toward her. Lucas. He was 4 years old now, healthy and strong, buzzing with energy. He slammed into her legs, hugging her tight. Careful, Luca, Vincent said, walking behind him. Vincent looked different. Lighter. He had dismantled the illegal operations, turning the Corsetti empire into a legitimate logistics conglomerate. He had donated $50 million to build the Samuel Hayes Children's Wing at the hospital. He still carried the weight of his past, but he wasn't drowning in it anymore. And he wasn't alone. Holding Vincent's hand was a 7-year-old girl named Maya. They had found her hiding in the hospital pantry 6 months ago, stealing crackers. She was an orphan, a runaway, just like Serena had been. Now, she was their daughter. Vincent wrapped his arm around Serena's waist, kissing her temple. Ready to go home? Serena looked at the graves, then at her husband, her son, and her daughter. She touched the scar on her chest, the titanium valve ticking steadily, a reminder that broken things could be fixed. Yes, she said. I'm ready. They walked away together, leaving the ghosts of the past to rest in peace. This story reminds us that darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Serena chose to be the light. She chose to break the cycle of vengeance, proving that even the deepest wounds can be healed by the courage to forgive. It teaches us that family isn't just whose blood you carry, but who you would bleed for. Here at Sunni Romance, we believe that true love isn't about finding someone perfect. It is about finding someone who helps you piece your broken parts back together. So, I have a question for you. Could you have done what Serena did? Could you forgive the person who took everything from you to save an innocent child? Or is some pain too deep to ever truly heal? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs hope today. Don't forget to subscribe to Sunni Romance for more stories that explore the depths of love and redemption. Until next time, remember to keep your heart open, because you never know when a miracle might be waiting just around the corner.